Hello, welcome to today's class. Today we would be understanding the concept of non-verbal reasoning. We would be finding ways how to solve the questions of non-verbal reasoning much more effectively. We'll be talking about mainly two things in today's class. First is finding missing numbers and second is understanding odd man out. So let's start with the first topic, that's finding missing numbers. So when we talk about finding missing numbers, we have various options. The first option here is either addition of an element. The second is deletion of an object or an element. Okay. Third is rotation or moving an object. And fourth is changing the position. So these are the commonly used techniques that are applied to this concept. Okay. And when we are trying to understand this, we will be discussing few of the examples. So let's try to make this topic much more clear with practical session. So in the first question, that is this, we can see there are various things like the diagram shows a flow of pentagons. Okay, with each pentagon in the center there is a dot. So the what next thing or the missing figure here would be a pentagon, obviously, because all of these are pentagon, so there should be a pentagon. So if we look at the choices A, B, C, and D, all of them are pentagon. So we need to think about something else now. Let's see the location of the black dot. As we can see in all the figures, the location of the black dot is in the center. Now if we see the choices, only in the choice D you have location of black dot in the center. That means if we don't do anything else or if we do not apply any other logic to this question, still we'll get the answer D. Now let's try to evaluate it further. With every step there is an addition of new triangle. Okay, so that's the first thing that we have talked about here. So as we can see, there is a triangle. If I add another triangle here, so this would become D. Then I try to add another triangle here. Okay, so that would become C, then another triangle, and then the final triangle. So with every stage you are adding a new triangle into the pentagon. So that is one way of solving these types of questions. Here is the next question. In this question, as we can see, it's a kind of clock. You have the long hand and the short hand of the clock. Now let's understand the position of the long hand. So the long hand is here. It goes here, then here, and back to here. That means in this position it would go down. Okay, so for every change it is moving 90 degrees clockwise. So all those cases in which this would be down could be the probable answers. So we have choice A, choice C, and choice D. But just with finding the long hand, we cannot depict the answer. So what we need to do is, we need to understand the location for the shorthand here. Now as we see, the shorthand was here and it moved vertically up. That means it's moving nearly 45 degrees. Okay, and in which direction? This was moving in this direction, and this shorthand started moving in this direction. That means anti-clockwise. So we can see here the shorthand is moving anti-clockwise from here to here, then it should be here. Okay, then it overlaps with this and finally it goes down. Okay, so we can see the position as this. So this cannot be the choice, this cannot be the choice. The only option is A. So A is the correct choice, and in this type of question we are talking about rotation of hands of the clock. So that's another variety of finding missing figure questions in non-verbal reasoning. We'll move on to the next type of question. This is a kind of much simpler question. If you are able to solve the above two questions, this question would automatically become very clear by simple logic. So let's start with this position. The initial ball is at this position in the triangle. It moves here, okay, and changes the color. Then it would move onto the top, okay, that should be the position, and it would change the color. So it was black, then empty, then it should be again black in color here. Then it moves down, changes the color to white. Then it moves here, again black, moves up white, and again moves down in the black color. So we can say that the choice should be such that the ball is first of all black in color. Okay. If we just see the above figure here, from the figure itself we can make out it's black, white, empty, that's question mark. Then it's again white, black, white, and black. So that should be black. So if we go by this logic, A and D can be the probable answers. Now we have seen the rotation. So the ball is moving within the triangle in a particular fashion. And if we continue to assume this fashion, the location would be at the top of the triangle. So D would be the correct choice here. So we can see this is just changing the position. Okay. So these are some of the examples on finding missing figures. Now let's move on to the next set of examples. Again for finding the missing figures. So it's just to give you more practice on these kind of questions. Now these are a bit tricky questions because I should say in those there was a kind of linear fashion, and within the linear fashion you will have to pick out of the choices. Now here, as we can see, you have a kind of matrix that is 3 by 3. So all the questions we will be discussing now will be based on a 3 by 3 matrix. Okay. So here we can see in each row there is a heart, there is an inverted heart with there is a heart with a stand, and there is a tree, or we can say the elements of card. Now as we can say, each of the row has a tree. So you have tree here, and tree here. Of these three, one is inverted. Okay. Of the two hearts that are here with a stand, 1, 2, and 3, 2 are vertical and 1 is inverted. So similarly, if there are 2 hearts, there should be again a heart here, but this heart should be inverted in nature because these 2 are upright. So this should be inverted. So the choice should be heart, which is only D, and that too inverted. So in this case, D is the correct option. Okay. The next question. Let's scroll down this. Okay. In this question, this is a kind of very tricky question. So you need to study this question very carefully. Now what is happening in the final figure is the result of first two figures. So if I say 1 plus 2 should be equal to 3, that would be the equation in this case. So here you can see you have a diamond shape, that you have diamond shape in both. So you have finally a diamond shape here. You have a black dot in both. So you have a black dot here. You have a white dot here. So you have a white dot here. So whatever thing is in both 1 and 2 is replicated in figure 3. Okay. So let's see the next example. Next row. So you have this, so this is replicated. Okay. And both of them should be in the same color, because as you can see, you have a black dot here and a white dot here, but that is not replicated because the colors are different. But again, the center circle is replicated because they are of the same color. So if we see the last figure, obviously the diamond is present in both the figures, so diamond is replicated, but there is no other thing that is common in both the figures, so nothing else except the diamond would be replicated. So again the answer here would be D. So this is a very kind of tricky question, I should say, which involves much more mathematical approach or much more critical approach. Here what you are trying to do, I'll repeat it again, you are trying to understand figure 1 and 2, you are trying to see the similarities or add both figure 1 and 2, and whatever is common in both the figures, that only is replicated to the figure 3. And to be very specific here, whatever is common in both the figures of the same color. Okay, as we can see in row 2, this is black, this is white, but this is not replicated. So only those things that are common and have the same color are replicated to figure 3. The last question here is, in this figure, as you can see, whatever is common, so let's understand this. I should draw much more bold lines here. Okay, so this is the first set and this is the second row. Okay, whatever is common between figure 1 and 2 is replicated in 3, but the color is reversed. So it's similar to what we have seen here. Okay, so whatever is common in 1 and 2 is replicated to figure 3, but with inverse color. Okay, so you have white, white, white and white. So you have white, white, white here. So this becomes black and black. Okay, similarly in the next set you have black and black and that becomes white, and you have white and white and that becomes black. Here you have black and white, so it is not coming out in the final figure, and here again you have black and white, so it's not coming out in the final figure. So if you have white plus white, that would become black. If you have black plus black, that would become white. So now carefully examine the last row and you have to find out the missing block here. So here there is nothing and nothing, so here is again nothing. So here is black and nothing, so here would be nothing. Here is white and black, so there is again nothing, and there is nothing and black, so there is again nothing. So our ultimate answer would be a kind of empty matrix. So the correct answer would be here would be choice B. Okay, so I'll just repeat these two questions because these two questions I know most of the students get confused. So here what we are doing is, so in a 3 by 3 matrix, let's try to say these are the rows, the horizontal are the rows and verticals are the columns. So you have column 1, 2 and 3. So now understand here, so whatever is common in column 1 and 2 would be replicated in the column 3 and it should be in the same color. Okay, while for the next question that we are talking about here is, whatever is common in 1 and 2 is replicated in 3 but with a inverse color. Clear? So these were some of the questions that we have talked about today on understanding the missing figures in non-verbal reasoning. Now we'll talk about finding out the odd man out in any of the non-verbal series. So here is the first series. So you have 4 choices of letters here. The first is I, J, K, L, M, S, T, U, V, W, okay, B, C, D, E, and F, and finally you have T, V, W, X, and Y, and there should be in all of these there is a continuous series except the last choice, that is D. So D choice is the odd man out because you have I, J, K, L, M, S, T, U, V, W, B, C, D, E, F, and here it should be, instead of T it should be U. So it should be U, V, W, X, Y. So that is one of the incorrect choices here. Okay. Now let's move on to the next question here. Now in this question, let's try to understand. There is a circle within a square. There is a triangle within a circle. There is triangle within a triangle and square within a circle. Now in all of these four, there is one figure that is outside and one figure that is inside. Now how to find out which one of the following is an odd man out? Now this question goes by a very simple logic. Outside you can see a square and circle. Then you have circle and triangle. Then you have triangle and circle and square. So that is what is outside and that is what is inside. So only in choice D you have similar items which are both outside and inside. So both outside and inside you have a triangle. So only choice C is incorrect. Remaining all choices are correct. So we can say choice C here is the odd man out. So all these questions on odd man out are based on a specific pattern. Now let's move on to this question. This question seems very interesting and very doubtful for most of the students. Now here we can say there are A, B, C and D. Okay. If we just see the lines, we will say A, B and C have vertical lines, only D has horizontal lines, so D is an odd man out. But that is not the only case, because when we are looking onto this question, we should look onto this question in totality. So let's understand the location of circles. In the first figure, the two circles are located opposite to the line. In the second figure again, they are located opposite to the line. Here again they are located opposite to the line, but only in choice D they are located on the same side of the line. So this is the reason why D choice becomes the odd man out. Okay. So you need to do a very keen observation in these kinds of questions, especially the non-verbal sections. So we require a very keen observation. So I'll repeat what we did in this question. Don't just get confused with whether it's a horizontal line or a vertical line. What we need to see is the location of the balls along the line. So we can say that in choices A, B and C, the balls are located opposite to each other on the line, while only in choice D they are located on the same side of the line. Therefore, choice D is an incorrect choice, or we can say it's a kind of odd man out choice. Okay. So these are some of the simple questions we did on odd man out series. Now let's move on to a kind of bit tricky questions in odd man out. Now this question is again to the question we did previously, much more similar in kind of content. There, if you remember, what we find out was there should not be repetition in the shape. Okay. Now in this, let's count the number of lines in the outside and the inside of the inside figure. So outside you have a triangle, so you have 1, 2 and 3 lines. Inside you have 4. Now here outside you have 4, inside you have 3. Here you have outside, it's a hexagon, so you have 6 lines, and inside you have a square, so you have 4 lines. And here you have a pentagon outside, so 5 lines, and triangle outside, so 3 lines. So what we are counting here is the number of lines in the figure. Okay. Now as we can see directly from what we have written here, that in all these three, the outside has much more number of lines as compared to inside. Okay. So it's only in the example A you have outside and triangle and inside and square which is more number of lines. So choice A is the odd man out. Okay, and we can say that except choice A, all of the 3 figures are such that the outside number of lines are much more than inside number of lines. The next question. This is a much more tricky question which requires very minute observation. Now, if you see at this question, if you look at this question, what you will see is there are triangles along. Okay, But what is the basic difference, or what is the basic difference which will help us find the odd man out in this series? So if we try to understand this, we'll see that one of the points is touching the vertex and one of the point is touching on the line. So if you have this line, you have one of the point that is touching, one of the lines that is touching onto the vertex and one somewhere within the line. Here again, so all those points which are touching on the vertex, I will circle those. Okay. So here there is a vertex, here there is a vertex, here there is a vertex, and here there is two vertex. And here it is touching onto the center of the line, and again center of the line. So we can say number of vertices, if we try to find out where the line is touching, where this triangles, the lines of the triangle are touching, is 1. Here again it's 1, here again it's 1, but in this case it's 2. So here you can see the lines of the triangle are, both the lines are touching both the vertex. So that is the only choice or only option which is different from the remaining 3, because in all the other 3 within the shape, okay, you have a kind of triangle that pops up and one touches somewhere on the line and other touches the vertex. Okay, so only choice D here is a kind of odd man out choice. Now final and the most difficult question in today's class. This question requires a very detailed understanding. So what we are trying to do is, here we are trying to find the location for this black dot and this black colored region. So if we see onto the figure A, you have 1 circle, 2 circle and 3 circle, and the center region of these 3 circles is black. So how many? So you have black region and black dot. We'll be analyzing these two things today. Okay. So black region here is formed by intersection of 3 circles, and again black dot is formed by intersection of 1, 2 and 3. So 3 circles. Here if I see, this black region is formed by intersection of this and this. So there is 2 circles, and this black dot is formed by interaction of this and this. So again 2. Here if I try to understand this black region, it's 1 and 2, whatever is lying between these two. So 2, and again black dot is 1 and 2. So here again 2. Now let's look at this. So you have this and this. So it's black dot is 2 and black region is again 1 and you have 2. Okay, so this and this. So this is the black region. Now again you have kind of this and this. So intersection of these two is 2, and again this. Okay, this circle and you have this circle. So it's 2. So only in the case A we can say that the black dot and the black region is formed by intersection of 3 circles. In all other cases it's formed by intersection of 2 circles. Okay. So this way we can understand how there are different concepts in this. Okay. So this was about the concept of abstract reasoning. We have talked about how to analyze the missing figures and how to solve out the odd man out. So I'll just repeat what are the basic elements that you need to look out. The first is interchanging the position, replacing a position, adding an element, deleting an element, rearranging the element, trying to rotate an element, reversing the object. So for example, if I'm trying to do a mirror image of an object, that is another thing that we need to consider. Then trying to increase and decrease the number of elements, form different shapes. So these are some of the things that you need to be very particular and observe minutely while solving questions on non-verbal reasoning. In the next session, we will be talking about sequence completion for non-verbal reasoning. So stay tuned for that. Have a good day ahead.